Well, I think we all need some help because we watched another edition of Monday Night Raw, so let's try to expressly get through this review and talk about the high points, and there were high points, and the low points, and there were low points.
Well, let's just make some observations about those things. For the Labor Day edition of Raw, I felt like I was going into labor. You could have gotten pregnant, carried the baby to term, and had it by the time this program started and ended. But it was the Payback from Payback edition. From hell, Daddy. Charlotte, North Carolina, what have we done to you? One of the great wrestling towns of the United States. But there was my favorite match of any program of the week was on here, as well as some exposition in the Bloodline saga. We're still not sure who's on whose side. So they started with Jey Uso, who, as we will recall when last we left our space travelers, Jey Uso had been signed to Raw courtesy of the manipulations and ministrations of the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes, right? So
that's right. He went to Jim Crockett's office and convinced him to open that checkbook one more time. And here's Jey Uso.
Right there off of South Boulevard in that converted convenience store. But Jey has not been given a locker yet, so he had to come through the crowd like the plumber on the other program.
No, not like the plumber, though, because he gets a reaction. You see the people jumping up and down with him? It was crazy.
The reaction on the plumber's entrance is for the Trogs. The reaction on Jey Uso's entrance, they had signs. They were happy about it. They were doing the waves. And, there was jubilation in the air, in the atmosphere, and the Uso chants and blah, blah, blah. And he gets in the ring and vents a little bit about having to fight his family every week, over on the other program on SmackDown, but Cody called him, and now he's on Monday nights by himself. And here comes Sami Zayn's music. Sami Zayn, I think if Sami Zayn had only been partners with Zbigniew Brzezinski in the old days, they could have solved every bit of the peace problems around the world. Because Sammy's always the conciliator, right? And he's telling Jey, hey, you're going to have enemies in the locker room. People are going to be upset about what you've done in the past, but I'm happy you're here. And he said, I'm proud of you, Jey. And he offers his hand. And Jey won't shake. And Sami said, okay, that's fine. I understand. You need some time. I'll give you some time, whatever. He turns around to leave. And Jey calls him back. And they hug each other. And it gets a big pop. And then Jey walks back to the back where he didn't come from. I guess he left his bag in the back, and then he traveled around to the front of the building, come through the people. But now he's walking to the back. And he goes past Drew McIntyre, and they have a face-off. And then Sammy's telling Drew, now, come on, he just got here. And then Riddle comes out and makes a mean face at Jey. And Sammy's like, come on, he just got here now. And at that point, between the payback package that started the program and what I just described, when I pretty much imparted all the information in that promo that was given, right? The basic points, that was it.
I mean, it took a few minutes to get there. They gave it some time, but yeah.
That's what I'm saying. We were 17 minutes into the show between the package and this interview where they hugged each other. But so Sammy again, the peacemaker over here, and Jey is now on Raw. Your thoughts?
I thought it was an okay segment. The crowd was really into it. And also, if Jey Uso is going to be on Raw, you kind of have to get this out of the way right now.
Do you think it was a little stagey when... because have you noticed now, in the WWE television universe in the past, they always micromanage these things so nobody is in the way of a shot, and nobody's going down the ramp one way when somebody's coming down the ramp the other way, unless they are supposed to have pre-planned and potentially stagey-looking interaction. But now, over the past few weeks on this program and or SmackDown, people are just meeting in the aisleway all over the place. Have you noticed that?
I have noticed that, yes.
It's one of the writers get an idea.
It's the place to be.
Well, the writers get an idea, and then every other writer steals the goddamn first writer's idea, and they're all doing this. Oh, that's good. I'll do that over here.
I mean, that's
Nevertheless.
Joe and Punk. I mean, not Joe and Punk. Joe and MJF started the same way.
Well, they're doing it all over the place now. It's a thing. It's a fad.
Although I think it's interesting with Jey Uso, because again, you have that dynamic of this guy that was all in with the bloodline. All of a sudden now he has nothing to do with them, and he's on his own, and he's a bit. And you know what? For everything you want to say about WWE, they still have classic baby faces in certain respects.
Yes.
And he needs the other baby faces to accept him. So I kind of like the dynamic of people that he's had problems with walking by him, and everyone's not going to just forgive him right away. Everyone remembers.
Yes, I agree with that. And the Dusty turn, or the time when Ole turned babyface to then turn back on Dusty. He had to be a babyface for a year, and he had to get Mr. Wrestling 2 to like him, and he had to get Tommy Rich to like him. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying suddenly they have started doing this thing that never, ever happens, where these people are walking past each other. And it always happens to fit the story perfectly. If they wanted to do that, they should have done a couple of weeks where people are just walking past each other and don't give a fuck. That's what they're being obvious. That's obvious. Captain Obvious.
All right. Major,
you know what's
Oblivion?
Major Oblivion. But we all work for General Disorders, so.
That's right.
All right.
And Sergeant McCoy. Don't forget about Sergeant McCoy.
Well, how can I forget Sergeant McCoy? He's the foot soldier in all of this. The next match, or the match, it was a Tornado tag team match with Matt Riddle and Drew McIntyre, the aforementioned, against the Viking Raiders. And of course, the Tornado tag match means all four guys are in the ring, and it also means no disqualification. Anything goes, lazy booking. And the Vikings put Riddle through a table, 1, 2, 3, to win the match. And now we're 35 minutes into the show. And apparently, from what I'm gathering, we have not seen the end of Seth freaking Rollins and Shaky Nakamura. Because now apparently this is continuing. They did another confrontation, an interview, and Seth wants another match. He wants to get even. He won anyway, but he still wants to get even. But Shaky won't give him the match. Have you noticed Nakamura makes weirder faces than Kenny does? He's twitching and convulsing. He looks unwell. I'm worried about this.
Oh, will you stop it? A week ago on the show, you said he looked elderly.
He does.
And now you're saying he looks unwell.
He looks elderly, frail, and unwell.
Oh, come on. He's wearing a bodysuit.
Potentially has some type of neurological disorder that he twitches and convulses, and he's probably wearing a bodysuit because he's got some kind of colostomy bag or something going on.
Where are you getting this from? No.
Something going on here. What the fuck?
There's nothing going on.
Well, you got that right. Not in this segment.
That's not what I meant. There's nothing bad going on with the elderly Nakamura.
The elderly, I thought he's going to have a retirement match. It's mandatory. The State Athletic Commission won't license him. He's too old. They got in a sloppy fight and got pulled apart. And then Shaky had a match with Ricochet, and Seth Franklin Rollins came in, and they had another pull apart. And I worry about Shaky's fucking potential health in all of this. And think, elder abuse is a serious issue.
Enough. This is ridiculous. But let me ask you this. He beat Ricochet here. Remember you were asking before SummerSlam, why would they have Logan Paul against this guy? And I said, I think they just want to get Logan Paul a really nice win. Look at how Ricochet's been used since then.
Yeah, they got him a really nice win. Well, it was Logan Paul. They're going to give him a favor because he says, hey, this kid does all these flips. We could do some cool stuff. And because Logan Paul's in a position where he'd rather wrestle 2 or 3 times a year and do cool stuff and make big money for a pay-per-view than actually do this 3 or 4 times a week. You know, they say, okay, we'll let you have the match with the underneath guy so you can do some jumping and flipping. Anyway, talking about the jumping and the flipping, the people are celebrating, Brian, because the Judgment Day has got all kinds of gold. There were Rhea's a champion. Finn and Damian Priest are the tag team champions. Dominic is the NXT North American champion. They've got, it's like the modern day Horsemen. They say, I get which one's Ole? Or do we just skip ahead to the Luger contingent?
Or the Roma contingent? No, I think it's a great visual, though. The 4 of them with the belts out there, with the lighting and everything, that really works well. And they've been together. They've been together forever. They've been together for a long enough time now. Will you stop? They've been together for a long enough time now that it's been established they're a thing, so it all works. Like, we're kind of used to them now.
Well, the group, they look great. And as I've mentioned, Finn, I can accept him in the group with the other really cool looking people. And, they do have the gold. And now they were telling the story that Finn and Damian were happier with each other now that they're the tag team champions. And Rhea's there saying that they're a family. And, of course, they're still, not only are the people still doing the booing with Dominic, but also they're riding that audio board like a fucking Bronco buster. And it's amazing the effect that they can. If you notice when the next guy in the Judgment Day talks, they sound perfectly normal on microphone, but Dom is exceptionally low and they're cranking the crowd audio up so you hear the booing even more, and it's a nice effect. But have you noticed, apparently, and we've been talking about this, it should happen, Rhea Ripley's the boss here now of the Judgment Day. She's starting to tell more and more people what to do. Get your act together. Here's an ultimatum. You do this. And I think that's the best thing.
Yeah, it works best, actually. It actually works best for them. And it works best for her because she's established herself as mommy beyond, being the sexual dominatrix of Dominic. Just the idea that she's the boss of this. It works.
And there also, this is the Monday night version of the Bloodlines. So you got a group that everything revolves around. But then in the middle of the problem, because Rhea's not happy about Uso getting the attention because they're better than the Bloodline. And then here comes JD McBuckethead. Holy, how does he walk straight?
Will you stop?
With a head that's multiple times too many sizes for the rest of his body.
Multiple times? Will you, come on.
Times. I'm surprised he doesn't walk with a lean, like he's got a metal plate in his head and he's walking past a magnet.
It's a slightly larger head, but it's not a bobblehead or anything.
It's an oddly and off-puttingly large head. And misshapen while we're at it.
Misshapen? Hold on, now you've gone a completely different way. What did you see that I missed?
Well, he looks...
Is there a dent?
He looks sort of like if you shaved Fuzzy Cupid. The big forehead and the smaller mandible area. I don't know.
Fuzzy Cupid, ladies and gentlemen, there's your classic wrestling quotient for today's show.
Well, tell me when I'm telling lies. If you look up Fuzzy Cupid, imagine if you shaved him. All right, anyway. But he had brought out a new briefcase for Damian Priest. It said Senior Money in the Bank. And so apparently now maybe Damian's starting to warm up to JD McFunko Pop or whatever. But then here comes Sami Zayn, and Owens ain't there. And good thing, too, because he'd probably get pissed at Sami doing all this conciliatory stuff and getting in the middle of everything. And he comes out and says what he sees is 5 giant turds in the ring. I'm pretty sure that's his version of Suffer and Succotash that was given to Roman Reigns a number of years ago. I don't think Sami Zayn would have said, I see 5 giant turds in the ring, unless he was given a script. But he made a challenge for later on versus Dominic, and JD McBuckethead stepped in and accepted. Now I'm like, oh, joy. We're good. But then this segment ended strong for my own personal entertainment. Did you hear what Sammy said at the end?
I don't recall.
And this is live television, and it tickled me. But what Sammy was going to say was, I'm so glad, to J.D. McDonagh he's talking, I'm so glad you opened your mouth because nobody deserves an ass kicking more than you. But what he said was, I'm so glad you opened your ass.
I missed that. Excuse me. Maybe he can work with that guy from Bear Country or whatever that said he likes to eat ass on fucking Collision a few years ago.
I'm so glad you opened your ass there, pal. Because nobody deserves an ass kicking. If he'd have just reversed it, if he just said, I'm so glad you opened your ass because nobody deserves a mouth kicking more than you, that would have been.
Open your ass. That's a new one.
It's the little things. All right. We got to find our entertainment where we can on this program, folks. So Gunther did a nice promo about being the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion in history. If he wins this match he's going to have here tonight. Did you hear they got a quote from Honky Tonk Man? Not on Raw, but somebody at I don't know, they saw him at a convention or a goddamn grocery store. I don't know where they saw him. But somebody said, what do you think about Gunther breaking your record as the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time? And he said, I don't work for those people anymore. It's their belt. They can do whatever the fuck they want.
Wow.
Hey, a firm grip on the subject from Wayne. That's
as always.
As always. So anyway, then they had Zoe against Shayna. And once they got finished doing that, we went back into the Judgment Day. We went back into their locker room. We didn't go actually inside, although there's a couple of members that, well, nevertheless.
That's going to be a video release. Inside Judgment Day.
Voiced over by Desiree Cousteau. All right, so Finn is now already making the noise and the motions that he wants to bring JD Funko into the Judgment Day full time. But Priest is not sure about that. And Dominic said, I'm okay with whatever you guys want. And then Rhea comes, she's sitting there and she says, oh, let's do this. She's the thoughtful one. She's the brains of this outfit. But then it must have been one of those nights because she says, well, let's see how he does against Finn tonight. And then she sees Finn sitting there in front of her. She says, oh, sorry, I'm Sammy tonight, Finn. And then she recovered. And Finn and Priest leave. And then Rhea tells Dominic, make sure everything with JD goes according to plan tonight. Dum-pa-pa-pa. So that way, and then we had Raquel and Chelsea. And then that was over with.
What was next?
Miz TV.
Oh, boy. You know what? Can I just say something?
You please do.
I like The Miz. I have been telling you that he's not as bad as you think. I have said that sometimes he's booked bad or with the wrong people, but if he's in the right situation, he's good. I have no defense for whatever this was.
Okay, and I know what this was. And I'm not as down on him as you may have been about it because he gave it the old college try. Now, there's something to be said for realizing probably halfway through the act of something that it's fucking rotten. That you are literally squatting down and shitting a goddamn barbed wire wrapped football right in front of everybody. And still going through with it as best you can. His premise, that I don't know whether this was one of the entertainment writers or whether this was, The Miz. He's been in movies and TV and commercials. And on the cover of fucking cereal boxes. He's got some ideas. Maybe he came up with this concept and he workshopped it with the writers or whatever. But I bet you a lot of people were convinced this is going to be the greatest performance piece that we've ever seen anybody do on a wrestling program. Because the idea was that he was going to bring out John Cena and not only interview John Cena, but he was going to fucking yell at John Cena and read John Cena the riot act and tell John Cena what was the matter with him and how to modify his behavior and how that he was the best one, blah, blah, blah. The problem was they didn't have John Cena. So what he did was, and also because, of course, this was the genius of this idea, Brian, in concept, in theory. It'll get heat on the Miz for being a heel because John Cena ain't there, but he's acting like he is. And a lot of people on Twitter were saying, oh, Cornette, you got to treat the Miz same as you treat the other people that work with the Invisible Man. I will give Miz this. He didn't take any bumps for the Invisible Man. It was strictly a one-sided squash. And I can tolerate that.
The Invisible Man shoved him. That's not one-sided.
Well, he didn't take a bump for him. It could have turned the air conditioning on in the arena, and it could have, a strong wind.
Really, a strong breeze.
A strong breeze. Well, look at Miz. The state of him. He won a legal battle recently. He sued his body for non-support.
Oh, come on.
But basically, his story was he was robbed at Payback not only by L.A. Knight, but by John Cena, the crooked referee. So he introduced, I'm going to bring him out here and tell him what I think of him, John Cena. And the music plays, and the crowd goes batshit, and nobody comes out. And, of course, there's Michael Cole going, I can't see him. And one of the problems with this, among the many, was that they had the floor cameraman actually panning back and forth in the empty entranceway and then running down the aisle toward the ring like he normally does when Cena's doing his entrance, but of course there was nothing there. I understand the heel wanting to fuck with the people and tease they're going to see their favorite and then they don't, and he's going to run their favorite down. Did he pay the cameraman to be involved? Isn't the cameraman on the side of the promotion, which is supposed to be the good guys? That was a little odd. So they had the Miz TV set up with the chairs and etc. And he puts Cena in the chair and he talks to him. And he says, since the fans apparently can't see you, I'll interpret, or hear you, I'll interpret. And then
he did as good as he could with something that was terrible. I mean, this was like, Clint Eastwood talking to the Invisible Barack Obama.
The empty chair, yeah.
I mean, he did better than that. And that's actually maybe my only problem. Not my only problem, but that was one of my biggest problems. He acted the same way and sold the push and everything, same facial reactions from the Invisible Man than any of the actual opponents we've seen him in there with.
There was more fire. I think maybe he thought he might be able to whip the Invisible Man because there was more fire there. He was more aggressive. He had more bass in his voice. But no, he was trying to yell at John Cena at one point, then he was trying to talk to him again, then he was yelling at the fans. And that's why I say when he was yelling at the fans at some point, I believed based on being in positions like that where shit's going south in the ring, your butthole starts quivering and puckering a little bit. And I think he was trying to try a little too hard to make up for the fucking ground he wasn't gaining with this whole thing. And then he kicked John Cena out of his ring, but then he got mad that he wouldn't go. Then he slapped him. And then the USA Network was trying as hard as they could to bleep the shit out of holy shit. And then basically they got in a skirmish and Miz gave the Invisible Cena his full Nelson finish. And then at that point tried to get serious and challenge LA Knight to a rematch. And not good. Miz and LA Knight have both been pretty good for the past couple of weeks, he tried, this was going to be his, avant-garde Nosferatu classic, and it turned into Plan 9 from outer space.
The problem with avant-garde is very frequently the people who participate in that avant-garde a clue. Thank you.
The biggest problem, Brian,
I know the biggest
is
problem.
that with this angle that they were doing here in the ring, where Miz was talking to a person that wasn't there, is because Miz was hearing him. Miz was hearing what he said, but the people couldn't hear what the Invisible Man was saying. And that took a lot of the fucking impact away from it. That took a lot of the oomph off of it, because there's Miz reacting to all these things that the people just can't hear. And you know why that was, don't you? Because when they got the close-up of Miz, did you see what was going on there?
What was going on where?
In Miz's ears.
In his ears? I didn't see anything going on. I didn't look for his ears, but what was going on?
They got a close-up, and there Miz had in his ears the incredible Raycon everyday wireless earbuds. And that's how he was able to hear what John Cena, the Invisible Man, was saying. Because Cena didn't have to fly all the way around the world from his movie set just to come right there to Charlotte, North Kakalaki, or wherever they were at. Instead, he could just talk into his Little Orphan Annie decoder ring, and it would be transmitted around the world.
Via telephone and telegraph.
Around the world, right to the Raycon wireless earbuds that were in the ears of the Miz in the ring live on Monday Night Raw. Because after all, Brian, that's what people listen to, various things on the Raycons. You can listen to anything you want. That's what they say. You listen to music while you're cooking or flittering around the house. You can listen to podcasts and talk. You can listen to invisible people speaking to you that no one else can hear.
Well, they wouldn't actually be invisible. You'd be hearing a live person, but to the average person who doesn't know that you're hearing something, they would think it was an invisible person.
If you can only hear them, but you can't see them, aren't they invisible?
Are we invisible? People are listening to this podcast right now.
I can't see you. Can you see me?
I can't see you either.
Well, goddamn, there you go. Another case of there you are, folks. With the Raycon's everyday earbuds, they've got the optimized gel tips in a range of sizes, whether you've got small, teeny, tiny little ear holes or even these big jug head. Maybe you got J.D. McFunko Pop size ears to go along with a preternaturally large head. They're going to be comfortable, and they won't fall out. You'll have to pry these things out with a crowbar before you'll get them loose. They will become loose when you're ready for them to be loose, and they'll come right out of your ear, no crowbar needed. Well, you just will them, because they're part of your head anyway, right? They're growing into your mind, so you just will them pop out, and they'll just pew.
Well, it's not that either.
Right,
it's just I'm ready to remove them from my ear. Look, I did it. It's that simple.
Huh, that sounds boring. You get 8 hours of playtime and 32 hours of battery life, though, and that's certainly not boring, because why, you could listen to War and Peace on an audiobook with that kind of battery life, and you get quality audio, folks, at half the price of other premium audio brands, because Raycon's not going to bend you over a barrel and give it to you the hard way. They're going to be nice to you. They got the customizable sound profiles, 3 of them, the earbud tap functions. You can just tap that earbud, the sap starts running right out. Noise isolation mode, awareness mode, you will know everything there is to know in the universe. When you activate the awareness mode, it instantly taps into the microfilm at the Library of Congress, and instantly every piece of collected knowledge known to humanity is zapped right into your head.
That is exactly
pick up on it.
That is exactly not what happens, but you will be aware of your surroundings
and how dangerous they may or may not be. You get high fidelity audio. They're water and splash resistant. So if you dunk your head in the bathtub, well, I guess you'll still be playing a nice little jaunty tune when they carry you out with a sheet topped over you. But right now, folks, school is back in session. What does that have to do with anything? I'll tell you, because they're having their annual back to school sale over at Raycon. And now all the little crumb snatchers and the rugrats can go to school and brag about the great new everyday wireless earbuds that they've got. And they'll probably make such a big deal out of them that some of the tough kids in class will beat them up and steal them. And then you'll have to buy more.
No.
But because they're so cheap at half the price of other premium audio brands, you can get one for your kid. The kid can get beat up and robbed, and then you can get another set.
No. That's not the way it works. You can buy as many as you want for anyone you want, your whole family, all the kids in the neighborhood. But
nobody's got to get beat up.
There are no beatings attached to this. In fact, it may make you popular with the other kids if they see you got some really cool Raycon earbuds.
Well, you'd be walking down the hallway there in school after history class or down the aisle or whatever. You're going to be going, hey, look at me. I'm bopping to my own beat because I got the Raycon wireless earbuds. And, man, you'll look as stupid as Miz did when he was talking to an invisible son of a bitch that wasn't there. But you'll be happy because you're listening to your own soundtrack. Anyway, folks, again, back to school. Learn something. Go right now. Do not delay. Go to buyraycon, BUYRAYCON.com, buyraycon.com/JCE today. You're going to get 20% off site-wide plus free shipping. That means you get one pair, you get 5 pairs, you get something else. You get some rutabagas. You get a dozen kumquats, whatever they sell on this website. You're going to get 20% off and free shipping at buyraycon.com/JCE. So, and hey, here's something else to think about. If your kids get beat up in school for wearing these fine earbuds and they're taken advantage of by criminal elements, when they punch the kid in the side of the head, they're going to hurt their fist on these Raycons, just so you know.
It's not the way I would look at it, but Raycon, a fine earbud for music and audio fans of all ages.
And beatings.
And no beatings.
No beatings.
No fans of beatings and no actual beatings. But Raycon.
Not.
Can we somehow end this? Raycon! What's the promo code?
Buyraycon.com/JCE. Do not beat anyone.
That's
Except
right.
You'll never beat these prices. I'll tell you what, it's like a sore dick and a busted drum. You just can't beat it.
I don't know about that, but one thing you can't beat is WWE Raw, unless you're looking for entertainment.
You can't beat Raw for all your boredom needs. Sami Zayn wrestled JD Funko. And again, the rest of him looks like a high school kid. But his little teeny tiny feet and his little leg, and then his body kind of gets bigger as it goes upwards. And then finally, it culminates with the blossoming of that giant bison-like head.
Bison-like?
You've seen them big bisons, a big buffalo,
Mantar.
right?
You can see this guy sitting on top of Mantar's head?
I see, yes, I can see this guy sitting on top of Mantar's head, sitting on his face, on his head, something. So, Sami Zayn, regardless of what you have to say about the fellow, he's been a top star for a while now. He got over, he's been in the main events. He got a main event up in Montreal. He's been used quite well, former tag team champion. He just got beat by JD McFunko Pop. 1, 2, 3. He beat up Dominic, Sammy did, at ringside to get a little something, and then got schoolboyed by JD 1, 2, 3. And then he beat up Dominic. Sammy beat up Dominic again, and then JD intervened and told Dominic to get out of there. And then Sammy beat up JD. So he beat up everybody, but he lost the match. Because why? What do they see that I'm not seeing that JD McDonagh suddenly comes in here looking like a fucking overgrown 12-year-old, and suddenly he's in the mix of potentially in the Judgment Day, the top heel group in the company on this show at least? What the fuck is happening here?
I can't explain this, but like you said, nothing against the guy, but why him for this?
I have no idea.
Out of all the people in NXT that you could program with the Judgment Day or use with the Judgment Day. He's the one they decided to go with. Maybe there's something there we just haven't seen yet.
But that's what I was saying. The visual has to fit too. And would this guy be hanging out with the cool guys and the cool girl with the tattoos and the leather? And no, he'd be in the back alleyway of the goddamn library with his nose stuck in a book. Anyway, they went to the back, and the Judgment Day was congratulating J.D. McDonagh on his big win. Now, bear in mind, J.D. got the ever-loving stuffing kicked out of him, and Dominic got beat up too, but he did get the 1, 2, 3, so they're congratulating him. And then Dominic says to the others, I'll catch up with you. I got to do something. And he just so happens he sees Jey Uso standing there minding his own business 10 feet away, apparently not ever dreaming he'd be on television just because there was a TV camera shooting these fucking fuckers having a conversation next to me. But anyway, Dominic, this was quite lengthy because Dominic gave the spiel. Hey, man, I know what you're going through. Our Hall of Fame fathers, the family, we didn't have a good family. The upshot of this thing was Dominic was saying, hey, if you ever need a family, the Judgment Day, we're here. You know, he's inviting him in. He was doing it very humbly, but this was not the most passionate delivery, or I don't even mean passionate, but not the most emotional. Baby, he was reading it off the cue cards, it sounded like, is what I'm trying to say. Because it was such flowery verbiage that I don't think he was completely comfortable, and it didn't sound natural. Did it to you? Am I just being picky?
I mean, maybe a little picky, but you're also not wrong.
Well, good. I get to have it both ways.
You get to have it both ways. AC/DC.
That's what she said. And then finally, we got to the only thing on this program that I actually wanted to see ahead of time, or actually wanted to see when I found out it was happening. Gunther and Gable for the Intercontinental title. And goddamn it, again, somebody named Williams needs to be involved in this. I cannot. I was programmed that Williams comes after Gunther and Gable in my childhood, and I can't avoid it. So, besides the restrictions / handicaps / stumbling blocks that the WWE puts in the way of a good television match, such as going to break after a minute and a half and then coming back and going to break after about 4 minutes, so you can't fucking really involve yourself in the thing. I'm not going to give you a blow by blow. This was an excellent match. And Gunther, again, never has a bad match, never does anything he shouldn't do. His style is perfect for his look. His look is perfect for his style. His basics, his timing, his technique, for me, are a pleasure to watch because it's so rare and unusual anymore that somebody actually works and looks and acts and moves like a professional wrestler. And he doesn't. I don't know how he manages not to ever get any on him, but he never looks stupid except when he is doing it to himself in the way of a heel being foiled by a babyface, but he never looks like he's in a stupid position he shouldn't be in. And they put everybody else in one of those from time to time, but he can take care of himself. And Gable, athletically, physically, his work, he's a feisty fighter. Whereas Gunther was stronger and meaner. Gable has fire and emotion. And he's a good selling babyface. And he knows because he's smaller, he's got to sell the stuff a little bit bigger, but then he's got to use his speed and quickness and, perspicacity. And so they just had a great match, and they saved not only saved the big stuff for toward the end, but they made the big stuff plausible, and they got pops from the people going into it. Everybody's on Gable's side, but nobody thought that he was going to win. By the time they got pretty deep into this and going into false finishes, you could tell from the people the way they were reacting, they were starting to buy, you know what, they might do this. They were with it. and they were fluid in what they were doing when Gable gave Gunther a German suplex on the floor and then grabbed him and as best he could, rolled him in to beat the count so he could try to win. But when he rolled right in, Gunther was coming up and he rolled right into a power bomb of Gunther's and got a big pop. And Gable again managed to, and in a plausible way, hit the superplex off the top and then the big headbutt and a 2 count. And then he goes to the ankle lock and the fans are going batshit. And they go back and forth. And then again, Gunther, even after he's lost weight, got to weigh 250, right? Because he's so tall, 240. Gable is Germaning him with a bridge, and he's doing it as a deadlift. He's amazing, and he's getting big pops on these things. And then they did a slick little thing where Gable goes for the moonsault off the top, but Gunther raised his boot, and Gable landed and caught him in an ankle lock. And then by now, Gunther's really fucking selling, and he's fucking, you see it on his face, and the people are up. Will he tap? But no, Gunther kicked out and got the sleeper. But Chad rolled him up backwards, but then Gunther suplexed him on his head. And safely, by the way. I watched the replay, and he had him trapped, and he had a hold of him. He didn't drop him on his head. It looked like it. And then a power bomb and a big fucking clothesline worthy of Bradshaw. And 1, 2, 3. It was a super match. It was plausible the way they did it, even with the size difference. Everybody's work was right where it should be. And then they have Gable's family.
The next shot. That's the thing. The next shot after he lost was his daughter crying in the crowd.
Yes, his mother wasn't there laughing, waiting for her spot. His kids were crying at ringside. There's a difference. So that, again, is exactly, I still hate everything about the way that Gable's being presented with the partner and the girl and the shoosh and the thank you. But the people are liking him because he's a feisty, spunky underdog that you can get with when he's in there selling for a big fucking monster like this. And Gunther is, as I've said, maybe the world's most perfect wrestler today.
Not named Rhea Ripley, maybe.
Not named Rhea Ripley. And actually, when you think about it, Gunther is more experienced and on every level as far as in-ring than Rhea, so he's probably a better wrestler all around, but at the same time, I don't see he's going to be a movie star, whereas Rhea Ripley will be. But they're very close in their respective fields.
Really, really good stuff, and, it's one of those things that, other than the opening shush for his music when he comes out, there was none of the silliness when people always say, what do you want? You hate everything. I want this. Serious physical matches the fans are actually into that don't get into comedy spots, the usual tropes that everyone does in the middle of their matches, good storytelling. That clothesline at the end looked great.
Keep it in the ring when you can, so when you don't, it means something. Hopefully none of your work looks phony.
They showed his family at the end. His wife looked upset. She was consoling 2 of the kids. The other kid was sitting next to her crying. Again, big difference than the partying parents we see on fucking AEW Dynamite. It's like they're all ready to participate.
Exactly. They're all in on it. Here we are, ready to go. Come on over here so I can do my spot. And all she had to do, that Gable's wife, was just take that hat pin and just jab that kid in the ass with it.
No, stop it. All she had to do was not tell her daughter that daddy's going to be okay right away. But one day they'll be smart
same
enough.
Thing, physical torment, mental torment, whatever floats your boat.
No torment at all, and Raw wasn't too tormental this week. Any closing Raw thoughts?
Yeah, I think they should have cooked this one a little longer. I would have sent it back to the kitchen. But I loved Gunther and Gable. And Williams.